Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and this is another Cumbrian church. This is the church of St Cuthbert, Dufton. It's just up the road, in fact, from Merton, which hopefully will be the previous video to this one. And to look at it initially, you would think, well, maybe it's very similar to Merton. Maybe, like Merton, it's a church that's built in the pre-ecclesiological period of the 19th century, maybe in the 1850s, like Merton, and you'd be wrong. This, in fact, is a radical rebuilding of a medieval church, and there's still some bits of medieval church around. I mean, you can probably just about see behind me, there's the wall lean, sorry, maybe not behind me on that side. No, on this side, rather, the wall leans quite significantly, and that is to do with the medieval building. Rebuilt in the late 18th century, and then again enlarged, extended, beautified in the 1850s, and so yes, there's an 1850s element to it. It has been altered somewhat. It still hasn't been Anglo-Catholicized. The pulpit has been taken down. It's in the tower in pieces. There's a west gallery. It's an interesting church. It's named, of course, as St Cuthbert, and the tradition is that the various churches in this part of Cumbria named for St Cuthbert are so named because after the Vikings sacked the monastery on Lindisfarne, the monks wandered, and wherever they spent the night, a church was built dedicated to St Cuthbert because they carried his remains with them, and of course eventually they came to Durham, where they left them and where they are to be found today. So let's have a look around and see the various features of this little building. So as usual, we start at the west end, and here we are under the gallery, the gallery front. The usual couple of cast iron columns. The bench ends are very similar to those at Merton, and you can see here the pews are numbered, which means that they were rented. Notably, one of the local gentlemen was a man called John Bost, who was a Roman Catholic priest who was executed in 1594. A local man. The church here certainly has medieval, maybe even earlier origins. There's certainly medieval stonework here. There's evidence of a 12th century building. 1784, there's a massive rebuilding. And in 1850 is probably the West Tower is built and the current seating installed. So as we have a look around, we see again the seat numbers. The back two seats have been removed here, so we start with number 3. 1 and 2, you can see where they used to be. There is some coloured glass here, but no figurative stained glass. We have here, again, a very common thing to find, Mr. John Elwood, by deed, dated July 16th, 1835, gave £6 and £6 out of Sandwich Estate to be distributed every Christmas Day as follows: V, to 10 poor widows or poor households of the parish of Dufton, also to 5 poor widows or householders of the township of Knock, and a half-stone loaf of the finest wheaten bread each. They will plus be appropriated to the education of poor widows' sons in the parish of Dufton at Dufton School. And then here we have Eric Weston Wilson, Lieutenant, 1st Battalion, West Yorkshire Regiment, Prince of Wales' own, killed in action, Battle of the Aisne, September the 20th, 1914, age 21, only son of the late John Wilson of Dufton, Caroline Mary, his wife. So, Lieutenant Junior Officer, as we've said before, they are the people who suffer the most in the way of casualties proportionately, because every every attack requires junior officers to lead it. Here we have a memorial to the Reverend Joseph Rawlins Henderson, M.A., present rector of Dufton. It's a memorial to he's given in trust to the official trustees of charitable funds, London, a sum of £500 stock in the 3% interest be remitted to the rector of Dufton for the time being, and to be annually distributed by him on the 8th day of February in equal shares among not less than 20 of the resident poor. So again, you've got these gifts that have been given. Coloured glass, really nice organ. That's rather impressive, actually. No indication of who built it, but that's a nice case. Single manual, later pedal board. Only, what, half a dozen stops. Nice case. Here we have a memorial to, near this place deposited remains of Williams Winder Esquire, died 5th of May 1766, age 75. And on the other side, bishop's chair there, altar type. The only figurative glass of the entire building is a dove representing the Holy Spirit. You can see here how the window kind of interferes with the ceiling. The ceiling is later, obviously. Nice bit of white tracery there. Emma, daughter of William Kilner, rector of this church, and Elizabeth, his wife, Elizabeth, his wife, aged 18. Only brother William Kilner, A.B., and Tabitha of Queen's College, Oxford, rector this tribute to her memorial. So yes, 1785. And then we've got here William Kilner himself, who was responsible. The church was rebuilt at the expense of the inhabitants of Reverend William Kilner, rector, AD 1784. Rebuilt, of course, doesn't mean new built. You can see that really good batter there. I say batter, it may just be a leaning wall, but leaning wall perhaps, and that's a good sign of a 12th century church. So that wall is 12th century. Gallery at the back. I say the pulpit has gone. No sign of the font either. They both must be around somewhere, because you don't just disappear fonts. But there we are. Big open space here. I suspect they do concerts and things here, which would make some sense. There's some old old pictures of the church here, which tell you something about what it used to be like. So this is the building before the tower was built. Dufton Church. And there it is. And of course there it is today with the tower. Well, I should say with the tower. Yes, there is something of a batter on that wall, so that's a 12th century wall. It's a rough guide more than anything else. And here we have more memorials, some brasses here, relatively old. So here we've got Michael Todd, St James, Clerkenwell, and again it's a donation. And here we have Joseph Furness of Dufton, and Rachel's wife died 1775. Aged 79. So more memorials. Yes, I can't see the font here, so it must be around somewhere, probably in the tower. Seems to be able to keep everything around here. So that's the interior here at Dufton. Very plain, very simple. Nice ceiling. And we proceed backwards. You see the bays, green bays on the tower. That's on the tower door. That's typical. That's insulation. And here we are in the tower. St Cuthbert's Dufton. We can go up the stairs, but there's not a lot to see up there, so let's still go up the stairs. Up the tower stairs, you can get a good view out, see the sheep out there and the graveyard. And up here, the door is locked, I believe. And right, the gallery door is locked, and rightly so. But there's the pulpit in the corner there in separate pieces. Yes, the gallery door is locked. No sign of the font, though. But we know where the pulpit is. looks to be a two-decker, minimally. And so that is the inside of St Cuthbert's, Dufton. And so here we are outside at Dufton. And you can see behind me the church, its tower, the tower believed to be 1850s, and the nave. There is a division between nave and chancel. Of course, it is a medieval church that's been rebuilt. So we'll have a look around the outside, and hopefully the rain won't get too heavy while we do it. So here we are. This is the south side, of course. This is the side you approach it from. The door is in the tower. There would originally have been, and in fact you can probably, I think, see some evidence on the outside of that wall. There would originally have been a door, I expect, in the south side, because that's normal for medieval churches. West doors are unusual, and they're really sort of posh things. But the windows, of course, are later. Windows are, I expect, Victorian. As you can just see there, there's a cut below that window, and that would have been where the door would have been, I expect. You can see there that there's a roof line. That was where the old gallery stairs went up before the tower was built. Here is a gravestone. You've got a foliated cross and a sword visible there. Lovely setting, by the way. That's the old parsonage down there. Now a private house, of course, as so many of them are. Lovely graveyard with the sheep beyond. Oops, excuse me. Darn it. Sorry, my hat trying to escape, which of course with my left arm makes it difficult. And the north side, again, evidence. You've got, see up there, there's the remains of, it's not in situ, but there's part of a Norman window head. Some of the stone appears Norman. There appears to be there a window, the remaining window opening. Again, my hat is trying to escape, which I can't really hold with my left arm. Vestry, of course, is 1850s, I expect, with that. Possibly not, possibly earlier. Possibly it's 18th century, but there's a hills beyond, a low cloud coming down, and that's why it's raining. But this has been a place of worship since the 12th century, so it is a very historic structure. East window, the east wall leans a bit. There's evidence of older windows that have been replaced. You can see that's a very obvious window cut there. So probably multiple lancets at some point. One of the great things with these medieval churches is that they have been so altered over the years. You can see actually, yes, although there is a back to that wall, there's also a significant lean to it on the outside, which again is evidence medieval building that has just been very largely altered. That 1850s tower with its pointy bits. For some time it was believed that the 18th century restoration had built the tower, but the date of the picture in the church is all wrong for that, and that in fact tells us that this is 1850s. And here we have a figure in the wall. Now this is interesting because it's believed to, you see it there, very eroded, but it's believed to be maybe Romano-British, and if so, it indicates that it may have been a Roman temple on or near this site, meaning that this was a place of pagan worship. And of course the Romans, yes, Romano-British, the Roman worship is really a form of animism, worship of spirits, a bit like modern Shinto in Japan, in terms of the spirits everywhere. And therefore the shrines would be shrines that were connected with existing British worship. So and of course here there's lots of water, there's lots of streams, and water was very significant to the ancient people who lived in these islands. So we know, therefore, that if that is Roman, it looks Roman to me. I mean, it doesn't look Norman at all. That they were worshipping the water spirits up here when the Romans came, and now we worship the true God here. may continue. And so there you have it, St Cuthbert's, Dufton, an ancient place where, before the Romans, the Celtic peoples worshipped the water spirits, a place where, for a while, the body of St Cuthbert rested, and a place where today there is this little quiet country church up here in the hills. Well, thank you for watching. May God bless you and keep you until next time.